Hi crafters, welcome to Scrapbook Pal's YouTube channel. Raquel here from Paints and Glitter, coming along with the Beautifully Imperfect collection from Spellbinders. I'm going to be using 2 items from this collection today. However, there are more, and I invite you to take a peek at them over at scrapbookpal.com so you can see how fun and useful this collection will be. Now, starting here, there is this cutting die set. And as you see here, it comes with 7 different dies, and what it does is that it perforates your paper, and it also cuts out all of these little fun strings. It'll make it look like you've done some haphazard sewing or stitching on your paper. However, if you'd like to, you could just use the perforating dies that you see there, and then use your own thread to go ahead and stitch onto a card. That'd be fun. I'll also be using this BetterPress plate and die set. This is called Butterfly Splatter. It does contain 1 plate that will press onto your paper or hot foil that has the image with the butterfly and splatter. It also has 2 other plates that you can use for sentiments. They read "Celebrate in your own style" and "Some friendships never fade." You could use these to either hot foil or press, as it says here. And then these 2 sentiments have their coordinating die so that you can cut them out of the background. So I'll get my materials together and we can get started. We're going to begin using our BetterPress plate system. What I've done is taken the cover plate and added an A2 size card. And here I'm using some low-tack adhesive that you can get from Spellbinders to hold this paper down. Then placing the plate with the butterfly, I'm using different colors of Lisa Horton Cloud 9 Interference inks. Beginning with Cherry Bomb, what I'm doing is seeing this butterfly as if it is a different quadrants and then targeting those quadrants with the different colors of ink. And all of the supplies will be listed, so if you want to refer to the colors used in this tutorial, you'll be able to do so. But I am using an ink dauber to help myself, so that way I don't accidentally combine the different inks using the ink pads. It's a little bit easier to avoid transferring the inks this way. And then what I'm doing here is trying to saturate that plate as best as I can. Then what I'll be doing is that once I have all of the inks that I like, of course, I'll be running this through the BetterPress system, placing that paper right on top. And this entire thing runs through the die cutting machine. Now you do need a Spellbinders machine for this. I don't have others that I would use for this BetterPress system, but there you see the results. Now I found it to be a tiny bit muted in the beginning, so I did revisit that and I ran it through one more time with more ink, and because that paper was nicely adhered, here you see the beautiful results because the paper did not shift. This requires a little bit of practice, so I do recommend you try it a few times until you get the results that you like. But here, what I'm using now is one of the dies, and this die is the one that will leave the perforations on your paper. There are 2 included in this particular set, and once I run that through my die cutting machine, still the Spellbinders one, but with the cutting plate combination, then I can get the perforations in that background. Now I'm also using some leftover ink from that dauber in this beautiful lavender color, and I'm using that on the edges. And what I like about this is that it's going to help bring out the bit of lavender that I had used on that butterfly, but it will also contrast against the background. However, because this is a metallic ink, then I want to make use of as much of this as possible, so I have cut out some of the other strings, if you will, out of paper, and I wanted to use all of the ink that I had left on the dauber, so there it went on those papers. I did the same with the orange and also the pink. Now all I have to do is layer these, and I had mentioned earlier that you could instead use actual thread. So if you happen to like a very tactile card, then you could definitely do that. But what I'm doing here is just creating a matting layer that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 to add my card, and here I'll be adding that stitch line. So as you can tell here, what I did is that I cut the paper so that the stitch line went off the border. So my little thread is a little bit longer than I needed, but I didn't adhere it fully because I'm actually going to sneak in this pink color underneath the blue thread. So adding very tiny little dots of adhesive. In fact, you can see I rubbed some off on the back of my hand so as to not have too much. I'll be layering that in between the blue and white card and then cutting off the excess. Next, I'll be adding the little ball of thread here, and this one is in the orange. That's going to go right on top. And this is meant to be haphazard, so there is no wrong way to use this. I thought it was kind of funny, actually, to have all of this texture, but I think it does create a really fun card. Now, using 3D foam squares from Scrapbook Pal, you can also pop up the sentiment. So I've chosen one of the two included, and it says, "Some friendships never fade." I did use the die included to cut it out of the background, but I also used it to create a shadow. So I cut it out of that pink card, and now I'm going to simply adhere this right on the front on top of that little mess of threads. I thought this was a really fun card to make, so of course now this matting layer is going to go on a base of 300 GSM card. That's my preference for a nice sturdy card that can be placed on a mantle and look really pretty. I've made it with a base of 4 1/4 by 11 and folded that in half. And I'm going to finish the inside with yet another little thread. There I'm extending the adhesive a little bit, as you can tell, so as to not have too much excess. And I've also cut the matting layer down to 4 by 5 1/4, and that will also go onto a pink matting layer to finish off the inside of this card. Don't forget that I also have a blog post for you, so if you want to refer to it, I have the photos of this project along with all of the supplies that you see here today. And be sure to check out the giveaway for this month from Scrapbook Pal. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised as to what it is, and it would come in handy should you want to recreate this project. Also, if you're new, be sure to subscribe to this channel and come back for more videos such as these. And as I always say, I do hope that you can be inspired and be blessed, and I thank you so much for watching.